Shamon, my little beans. Fluffernutter here. I just got back from seeing Michael, and it was definitely a emotional ride for good and bad. Basically, this movie is the origin of his legacy. It doesn't really cover his whole life. It only goes from the 60s to the late 80s. Now, the beginning of the movie, like I said, started in the 60s, and it basically showed the Jackson 5 on how they started and how they rose to success. They were doing good and all that. It was nice to see that. Except there were a few scenes that I wish I hadn't seen. One scene stuck with me. Basically, they had come home from a show and they needed to go to bed for school. Joe wasn't having that, so he kind of forced him to practice more. Michael was refusing, so Joe did the old school disciplinary method of BTA, which is belt to ass. And as someone that's been disciplined in those types of ways, it was hard to watch. Yeah, it was hard to watch. Even worse to hear the screams. It was so bad that I think I crushed my friend's hand because it was just so... Oh, God. After that, we pretty much, continue their fame rise until we get to the 70s. Now, this is a crucial time for him. And I say crucial because this is when Michael tries to break off from the Jackson 5 and do his own thing. And basically, he went on a hunt for his own agent to replace his father. As you can picture, that didn't go over too well later on, once he found out. Yeah. But he does find one, and he starts making his first album, which is Off the Wall. They show him recording Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, and I gotta say the transition for that, And then after that, we see, he's rising on his own slowly, but surely he's rising. Once his CD sales are booming, of course, that's when I think Joe begins to get jealous to a degree. Because there's one scene in particular that just comes to mind right off the bat. Basically, he wants them to still tour, and of course Michael didn't really want to, but Joe wanted to start an argument. Argument ended. That's when we see the silly side of Michael for a few parts. We see his humanity, a few autograph signings here, playing with his bodyguard Bill. It was just nice to see. They even included the hospital visits that he actually did. After all, the montage and whatnot of that, we then get introduced to Bubbles for a brief moment. And of course, the family is just like, huh? It was funny. And with that, they also explained kind of how he liked animals more than people because of his early childhood being kind of forced into that life. He couldn't really fit in with regular kids because they would always want, signatures and would always pesterize him for photos and stuff like that, I guess. And for animals wouldn't, so hence his outlet. And then later down the line, we get to a very interesting part. And that part is Beat It. Basically, he wants to use the power of music to make peace with everyone, between two gangs in particular, the Bloods and the Crips, which does ultimately work. I did notice it was toned down, and I think a lot of that was to keep the rating. Because if they had a little scene in there, it probably wouldn't be as family friendly. And if it's not for most audiences, you're not going to make that revenue. I think that's why they cut a lot of things out, the Joe scenes and all that out, so that most people can see it, if not all. And that goes well. You see how he kind of gets in the groove of things and just dances with them. And then from there, we kind of see him just coming up with ideas and him just growing even more and more. And at this point, we're on the second album. And they eventually get to the Thriller part. And I gotta say, the makeup, oh my god, the makeup was too good. The makeup was too good. It was so good, I legit had to go, huh? Yeah, it was that good. The makeup is good in this. And they show basically them, rehearsing, trying to get the scenes right. Mike, shows a few pointers here and there. At that point, he is just famous. And then we get to kind of a controversial scene for me. Basically, he wants one of his songs on MTV, and a worker for a different company, I can't remember which one, tried to get him on, I guess, and it failed. So Michael's pretty much told him, try harder, please. Out of love, try harder. And that eventually gets him on to what is now the Billie Jean performance that we all know from the 80s, where he introduced the moonwalk. Again, another clean transition. This movie's full of them. They kind of play it as a montage of back and forth. The songs playing, and they show him dancing, but they also see the charts rising. They're talking about his fame and all that. And then shortly after that, another scene with Joe that bugged me was he wanted another tour with all his kids. Michael basically flat out told him he didn't want to do it. Again, Joe forces him. After being forced into it, they show, the iconic Pepsi commercial. And we all know what happened there. They also showed him his recovery process, which, oh my god, I could imagine. Okay, I couldn't. The dude was crispified on the top. Oh my god, was he crispified. Anyway, he gets out of there. He ends up going on a tour with his brothers. Joe's loving it. Of course, he would be loving it. And that's when Mikey Boy here decides to announce that it's their final tour. And oh my god, the look on Joe. This look. Oh my god. Basically, that was his magical moment to part ways with the Jackson 5 and be his own thing. And Joe was not happy. But screw Joe anyway. He was an asshole. Now, after that is pretty much the end of the film, which is his full new look. And at that point, it wasn't even a movie. It was more of a concert. Now, sadly, I didn't see him live because I didn't really know who he was till his death. And after that, that's when I really grew into him. And then in 2012, I got this game for my 3DS I had at the time. And my yearn for his music kind of really took off with this game. But yeah, that movie was a really good movie. It's that good. Buddy, is it that good? I would honestly give it 8 hee-hees out of 10 because of those, missing assets. But again, that movie, if they were in there, would have probably been rated R or A, from what I've read and gathered online. And again, with that, they probably wouldn't have gotten as many viewers. And honestly, I don't think Michael himself would have wanted that, with how much he used to love his fans, or as he calls them, his family. And not only just that, it probably would have been at least 5 hours. I can't wait till it comes out on Blu-ray because it's going right on this shelf. Matter of fact, it's going right there. Yeah, I will be picking that one up, and I will definitely be seeing the sequel. But that's where I'm going to leave this video. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Now, this has been Fluffernutter, signing off. Stay tuned, my little beans.